Hi. Good morning. Nice to see you. Grab a seat. Hello. Hi. Well, there's a lot to get through. Again, we've got about 15 minutes to do so. Talk to me first of all, and I'm asking everyone the same thing, of where are we now? Where do you see the market right now? Because there are so many things going on. Each airline clearly has its own challenges and its own specific issues. Where are you? How are things?
Yeah, I think as far as the consumer is concerned, I think the market is fine. Okay. There is consumer demand. I know that there is this ongoing, looming worry of all the stakeholders, whether the market is changing, consumer demand is changing, coming to summer, coming to winter, etc. I think consumer is fine. The consumer wants to travel. The consumer recognizes the value of air travel to satisfy their needs. So I don't think there is any fundamental change to that. I think what has changed is the supply chain. I think the supply chain is a lot more challenging than ever before. And the supply chain, I mean, from OEMs to ATC operating through the European skies. So that is pushing us to make changes to make our operating model more resilient, but the consumer is fine.
So let's talk about those two things. So the consumer is back, they want to travel. Talk to me first, ATC, huge problems across Europe. What does that mean for what you do?
So first, the problem of ATC. I think the problem of ATC is that this system has completely failed to integrate on a European scale. It is seen as an expression of national sovereignty or whatever, but it has nothing to do with economic efficiency, operational effectiveness. As a result, the industry is paying a high price for that. The geopolitical events are not helpful to the ATC operation. Let me just give you an example. Look at Hungary. Because of the airspace closure in Ukraine and Russia, a lot of the overflying traffic got rechanneled through Hungary, and their traffic went up 42% this summer. And their capacity, human capacity, is still down versus pre-COVID period. So only one thing can happen. You get slotted as an airline, and they cause long delays. So I think it is an issue of staffing, it is an issue of systems, and I think it is an issue of strategy. And it has become very political, and I'm just not seeing how ever anyone on earth would crack this.
That is the challenge, isn't it? What is the answer to all of this? And we'll come on to maybe what one of the solutions might be in a second. But for you, operationally, that causes huge problems because there's not a lot of flexibility in your network and your fleet. It means you taking flights off, having to cancel because of issues outside of your control. How do you build in resilience? Short of getting more aircraft, how do you build in resilience?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if there is one learning over the last few years, it is that the ULCC model is great, and the ULCC model used to be very efficient in the past, but given the changing set of circumstances, we need to adopt for resilience. So it requires us to adopt some scheduling principles, how we roster, how we create slacks in the system on aircraft, on crews, etc. So we have been really kind of, if not putting the model upside down, but significantly adjusting to make sure that we are maintaining the core discipline. So fleet utilization is critical. So we are driven by fleet utilization as a business. We fly brand new aircraft, expensive assets, a lot of capital investments. You have to spread the fixed cost, and this is core utilization. But at the same time, implementation needs to be as such that actually it is adequate to the changing environments, and it's a lot more stressful than ever before.
So your orders are locked in. You've got a pretty sort of strong order book of stuff that's coming through. Am I right saying 30 or 40 aircraft a year coming to you?
Yeah, so we have 330 aircraft to be delivered in the next 6 or 7 years. Yeah. We shall see whether Airbus is going to be able to deliver it, but this is the order what we have. And roughly 40 to 50 aircraft a year will get delivered in the next few years.
But at the same time, the Pratt & Whitney issue means you've got planes on the ground. So any new planes are sort of cancelling out the ones that are grounded. So operationally, that means you sort of find it difficult to move on while you've got those planes still on the ground.
Yeah, so basically we are dealing with this dichotomy of growing the fleet actually quite substantially. Our fleet has grown tremendously. I mean, we are nearly twice the size of the fleet versus pre-COVID capacity, but we are only like 60% more production in the system because a significant portion of the fleet is grounded due to the engine inspections. But I think this Pratt & Whitney issue is a cycle we have to go through. Probably it has already bottomed out. It will gradually improve. And probably another 2.5 years, it will continue to drag the industry. It will continue to drag us, being one of the largest operators. But we are very focused on kind of overlooking this issue and making sure that we put the fundamentals in place in terms of markets, in terms of staffing, infrastructure needed to be able to grow the business in the future.
You sound quite pragmatic about it, but I wonder, does it make you angry that you're spending all of this money, this time, and this energy on ordering new aircraft, making the business, efficient and fluid, and yet you face these challenges like ATC that, as you said, until you can train up enough people to work in that, until we can break down borders between sovereignty on ATC, there are very few solutions, and yet you've got to run a business amid all of this. Does it make you angry?
Look, I mean, I think what you learn by managing the business is that one thing what really matters is your ability to adapt. I mean, everything is going to change around you. Consumer may change, systems may change, operating environment may change, supply chain may change, but you still have to deliver your business. So you have to adapt your approach, your model, to stay relevant in the changing environment. I think the science of managing this airline or managing this business is how do you uphold your principles on the one hand, that you know that they are the success factors of the business, but at the same time you make yourself relevant to the changing environment. And I think this is what we have been juggling with. And if you just look at our kind of last 3 years, the war in Ukraine, we had to reshuffle almost 15% of our capacity, withdraw that capacity from Ukraine and Russia and redeploy that capacity somewhere else. Then another geopolitical significance in the Middle East. We are the largest carrier to Israel outside the domestic market, and we had to reshuffle capacity as a result of the events. Then comes the Pratt & Whitney GTF issues, 20% of the fleet on the ground. So you had to adjust your approach, operating model, and commercial approach. So, I mean, you just learn how to adapt. And I don't know what else is coming. I'm pretty sure there is something else going to come, but we'll see.
It's inevitable, isn't it? It's always the way. Talk about capacity, though. So quite clearly, what about half of your capacity, sort of Central, Eastern Europe, about a quarter to Western Europe as well. Middle East is going to be a big thing for you because this is about long-range jets. Talk to me about Abu Dhabi in your plan.
Yeah, I mean, just to put the numbers in place, right now we have sub 10% of our capacity operated to the Middle East, one way or another. So I think we look at the Middle East as a complementary layer of opportunities for Wizz Air.
Yeah.
It is not changing the core. The core remains Central and East Europe. We are an airline focused on Central and East Europe, and we remain an airline focused on Central and East Europe. And when it comes to Abu Dhabi, we have a venture in Abu Dhabi called Wizz Air Abu Dhabi, operating the same brand, the same operating model. I think it's been doing pretty well in terms of engaging with the market, engaging with the consumers, building the brand, and clearly the market is showing a great demand for our products and services, and there is a lot more to come. But Abu Dhabi is a slightly different setting versus the European model. Europe is an open sky system, so essentially you have to do your own research and you have to make your own commercial decisions. You are not contained by the regulatory framework. In Abu Dhabi, in the Middle East overall, you are subject to the regulatory framework. So, designations, approvals for getting route rights, etc. So that's a new environment. We are very upbeat. We think a lot is happening in Abu Dhabi, a lot is happening in the Middle East. You could argue that maybe the next, 30, 50 years, the Middle East or certain parts of the Middle East is something what Europe used to be after the Second World War. A lot of economic developments, a lot of transformational projects put in place. So we are very excited and we want to be around given those developments.
And how significant as a shift is that in your model of what you do? Because it allows you to connect the dots, doesn't it? I'm looking at some of the plans here, Gatwick, Jeddah, Milan, Abu Dhabi. That changes the nature of what you do and maybe how people would perceive what Wizz is as an airline.
I don't think it changes the perception that dramatically. It certainly doesn't change the operating model because we are effectively flying the same aircraft, same seat configuration. So we are not going down the road where David is. So we are ultra low cost, very focused, high density seat production, and that's not changing. I think what it does, it just creates another level of excitement to the market that this is not only available to fly for 2 hours or 4 hours, but you can do it for 6 hours, 7 hours, even 8 hours.
Okay. I mean, the ambition is sort of India, Singapore as well on the plan.
Well, I mean, we shall see. I think we are active on India, and we are very excited about that market opportunity. But we need to get there. I think Singapore is more of a visionary dream of someone, and it may not be
not
myself.
Talk to me then about how you prepare for that. Given everything that we've discussed in terms of challenge, labour is clearly an issue as well, be that at ATC or be that pilots as well. How do you make sure you've got it? As I said, you've got the deliveries, albeit maybe delayed from Airbus. Have you got the people you need?
Yeah, I think when it comes to people, and I'm not just saying it, but I really mean it, that I think our most important assets are our people.
Yeah.
And we think about people very strategically, and we invest into people very strategically, and we are investing into organizational capacity, managerial capabilities, at least 2 ways. One is, Wizz is not hiring you for a job. So we are trying not to be transactional. We try to bring you in for a career.
Right.
And we want to give you a perspective what you can achieve at Wizz in the next 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. And that goes for pilots, for cabin crew, as well as managerial stuff. And at the same time, we are heavily investing into infrastructure, supporting people development. We just opened our 2nd training center in Rome, Italy, following the Budapest setting on pilot training. I mean, this is absolutely state-of-the-art investment many ways, and we do more of these infrastructure investments to make sure that people find Wizz as a place to be, as a place to develop their skills and careers and futures. And at the same time, also we provide the best support we can in terms of infrastructure and training. So we are becoming increasingly a training organization, really promoting the principle of people's promotion from within, as opposed to relying on the market. And that goes for the pilots. So we have hired a lot of people in the very early stage of their career. They are just getting their type ratings, and we make sure that we continue their development, and we help them financially and otherwise to build their career. So unlike many of the other players in the industry, I don't think we are that reliant on the market, because we can create our own flows. And also we are uniquely attractive to people because of the career perspective. I mean, we are a growing business. I mean, we are growing under normal circumstances around 20% a year. I mean, that creates a lot of growth opportunities and career opportunities for people.
And a word on sustainability. Mohan says that SAF is a sort of interim solution until we can get somewhere else. David says it's a lot of rubbish. Where are you?
I'm with David. I mean, strategically, SAF is not the solution. I think best SAF may be seen as a bridging mechanism between where the industry is today, totally carbonized, versus where the industry needs to be, I don't know, in 20, 30, 50 years from now, being totally decarbonized. But SAF is an uphill battle, and I agree with the previous speakers that it is an ecosystem issue, and it has to be orchestrated. It has to be acted upon by industries, governments, regulators, all together as a team. And I also agree with David that I mean, this is not a structural solution. I mean, but you have to have kind of a long-term view on life, because technological advancements, especially breakthrough technologies, don't happen overnight. So I think we have to see how hydrogen is coming into play in the industry, how this is going to be industrialized and operationalized. But I think this is where the focus needs to be. But as far as we are concerned, I mean, Wizz Air has been globally recognized as sustainability leader in the industry. So we are already investing a lot into current technology, brand new aircraft, high seat density to make sure that carbon footprint of each of the passengers comes down. And I can tell you that I think the industry can do a lot more than that they are doing at the moment. I mean, if you look at hub and spoke, I mean, this is very counterintuitive to sustainability, because you fly the passenger twice. Business class is very counterintuitive to sustainability, because the space you require, so the individual footprint is going to grow significantly. So we are already addressing all of those, being a point-to-point airline and not doing business class. And we are actually investing into SAF. We put equity into SAF production in Europe as well as in the United States. And we are working with Airbus on piloting hydrogen-powered aircraft. But strategically, structurally, I think hydrogen is a solution to the industry. But somehow we need to get there, and I think this is SAF.
Do you think, as a final thought, that the pressure is coming from government on targets and ambitions and really strict rules about things like emissions and aircraft movements? Is your voice heard as an industry? Do you feel that you are always under the pressure to deliver more and more and more? Whereas actually voices like that aren't necessarily heard at the levels of government saying, look, we're doing a lot, give us a break. We're being squeezed on margin. And actually, you're not really recognizing what we're doing. Do you feel that voice is heard?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the problem in Europe is that Europe tends to over-regulate. It is very bureaucratic. I mean, there is a problem, we regulate it. And that makes us uncompetitive in the end. I'm pretty sure a lot of you read the Draghi report on Europe's competitiveness. I mean, it's pretty dire, but I think it's a very fair assessment of what is happening. So I think Europe will need to rethink its stance on various matters as opposed to just mandating, regulating, and bureaucratizing systems. I think market forces need to be strengthened, but also kind of teamwork, working more collaboratively to figure out solutions on a systemic basis across industries would be a challenge, but I think would be a necessary challenge to take.
Jozsef, really good to talk to you. Thank you for being with us. Ladies and gents, Jozsef Varadi there, Chief Executive of Wizz Air. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.